So, not sure if I'm going to post this on the podcast playlist or authenticity alchemy slash dark lightning uh group or both. But my desire for this experience is to embody the really the deepest wounds of my fucking life. Um, I woke up this morning and I've been going through this sickness since Friday, and in some ways it was this relief, right? When you're sick, there's this like, oh, I don't have to do anything, right? This relinquishing of responsibility. At least that's what I would feel. I would do that all the time as a kid, like to get out of school, I would fake sick. So I'm an Eagle Scout, and I remember even on the morning of my Eagle project, which was this big endeavor where there's going to be a lot of people, and I had to take over this leadership role. And this was a theme in my life, especially with Boy Scouts, is I would hate it. I would try to everything to do, I would do everything I possibly could to get out of it. But then when I stepped into the role, I thrive. And there's this energy in my life of like I have to fucking put a fire under my ass. Otherwise, I won't do it. It's like the natural inertia is to just lay around and fucking wallow. Um, but I faked sick that morning, and my scoutmaster who saw through it, he's this badass dude, and he was in his 50s at the time. I was 18, 17. I was like lying on the ground. I was like, I'm too sick, I can't do it. And he's like, well, he was actually I see him as being very balanced. He was like, all right, well, you know, let's just hop in the car and we'll go and we'll see how you feel. Like he knew in the back of his mind, very likely that this was like a defense mechanism, but he also wanted to honor my experience without being a dick. Because if he were to just say like, hey, this is a defense mechanism, you're faking sick, your body's bringing on this sickness because it's afraid of evolution and growth, then I would just close off even further. So he was very ingeniously and compassionately attuning to me, and he was like, hey, well, I understand you're sick, let's get in the car, let's go to the site, and we'll see how you feel. And then of course as I went, I started to feel okay because I could feel like non-judged. And it's such a lesson about life, like of just starting something, and the beginning is the hardest. The resistance to the first step is the hardest, and then once you actually start, it's not as hard as you think. But I digress. um so there's been this theme my whole life, like this extreme resistance to responsibility, and it got rewarded when I was younger a lot. Like I would get out of school, I would fake sick and get out of the responsibility of school. There was an experience I had where I was 18. I was going to community college. I had just flunked out of Northern Illinois University. I was going to community college, and I had taken a speech class. And my being was like, I don't want to fucking take speech class. That's way too uncomfortable. And so I just didn't go. And voila, the semester is over. I'd taken like three other classes and done pretty well. I think B's, A's and B's. And the semester ends, and I look at my transcript, and I had an A in the speech class, and I had not attended one class. So I was like, what the actual fuck? So my system goes, okay, you can just shirk off things that are uncomfortable and you'll get rewarded. Because clearly the professor mailed it in, right? Or just didn't care. It must have been a big class and he just gave people A's. I don't know. But it also had happened in high school at the beginning of AP Econ. Uh, there was this like semester long project we were supposed to do. And I was just like, fuck that. No. I just said no. I just refused to do it. It was going to be like this semester long thing. And I was like, no, that's fucking stupid. I'm not doing it. And the end of the year came around and they said you can't graduate unless you did this project. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm not graduating. And even when I walked down, like walked across the stage at my graduation, my little folder didn't have a diploma in it. And they're like, oh, you're going to have to come and retake class. But then 2 weeks later, they like sent me a diploma anyway. So there was this theme of like, okay, if something's uncomfortable and I don't want to do it, I can just not do it and I will get rewarded for it. It will work out anyways. And so that pattern has been running my life. This like sense of entitlement of like, if I just fuck around and fuck off, if I spend all my time on Netflix or on my phone, um, or masturbating, watching porn, which was a lot of my life in my 20s, then things will just work out. But that hasn't been the case. And now things are shifting. And now it's like, okay, yes, you've been avoiding responsibility. I have compassion for that part of me because that part of me has been afraid of something, afraid of discomfort, afraid of doing uncomfortable things. But now it's like, okay, blank slate, blank slate. I have a blank slate right now. 34 years old, about to be 35, blank slate. The world is my canvas. If I don't take responsibility, this is what will happen. I will continue to cycle. I will continue to cycle. I will continue to be on medication. I'll probably continue to go in and out of psychiatric hospitals because the intensity of my energy is too much for me to hold. And so I'll spend maybe the rest of my life in and out of psych hospitals. And I'm sure I'll get a lot of pity and I'll still have friends who see me and support me in the process. But is that what I want? No. What I want is to lovingly integrate this part of me that is terrified of responsibility, that is terrified of individuating, losing attachment. Like I'm really fucking fascinated with Gabor Mate's ideas about authenticity versus attachment and the story that we learn early on that we have to choose between being loved or being ourselves. And that's what I'm butting up against right now. And it's like I've buried so deeply myself that I didn't even know what I wanted, but I'm starting to uncover like what I want to do in my life. It's not quite clear yet, but there are all these pieces that are slowly coming together. The more I honor myself, it's like the picture becomes more clear. There's more solidity to this chaos that's just been around me my whole life. And so the fear of responsibility is the fear of individuation, is the fear of losing attachment, which is the fear of feeling abandonment, which is the fear of feeling terror and grief. It ultimately all comes down to a fear of a feeling. And I also have a terror of being disliked, which relates to attachment. I I procured attachment by getting people to like me, and I became a master at it, like a fucking master. Like I can get anyone to like me within a minute. And it's not black and white, like it's a gift. It's a gift because I can connect to anyone immediately. Like, and one of my favorite experiences on this earth is going to the store and like making playful banter with a cashier and like snapping them out of their programming and like talking about their name or a tattoo that they have and seeing their eyes light up. Like that's one of my favorite fucking things. It's just living day-to-day life as me, as someone who can poke people out of their programs. And yet when it becomes shadowy, when it becomes manipulative, is when I'm feeling so shitty, so much intense emotion, and I don't know how to hold safe space for it, or I don't know how to feel safe in this like terror or grief, which I'm butting up against now. And then I go to what has worked, which is getting people to like me. And I'm in a perfect training ground for it right now because I live with my parents. I've been going through this dark night of the soul at my parents' house. And I've noticed the more I've been honoring myself, whether like verbally or with actions, or even just like painting my nails and having earrings and dressing more like me, it's been triggering, especially my father. And so his system is like, okay, I knew my birth name is Jeff, for those who don't know. He's like, I've known Jeff as this person my whole life. I've known Jeff as a people pleaser. I've known Jeff as someone who suppresses his emotions and plays small and is stuck in a freeze and fawn response. And now that he's thawing the freeze response and not people pleasing as much and learning who he is, like now that he's going through this rebirth process, it makes me uncomfortable because I have to look at my shadows because he's not acting in the same way that he used to. So this part of me that is there's a part of me, and I'm fascinated with parts work and IFS. There's this part of me that is obsessed with being liked. Like if I were to embody it right now, it's like everyone around me, I'm like, please fucking like me. Like, please, God, I need you to like me. I need you to like me. I need you to give me indications that you like me. I need you to smile. I need you to laugh at my jokes. I need you to give me attention. Because if you pull away, I feel like I'm gonna die. If you, or more than that, if you give me a negative response, like if you give me a disgust response, which I've noticed in my father recently. I think I showed him my nails, or it was something around my nails, or I have these new like psychedelic mushroom pants. And he was like, oh God. It was this disgust energy. Like, oh God. And I wonder how much as a fucking child I heard that. Anytime I would do something I would actually want to do, oh God, that shame, disgust. And it feels like it's generational. And I'm sure his father did that to him. This, oh God, you're gonna do that? Oh, ugh. It's shame, it's disgust, and it's been so fucking embedded in my goddamn nervous system that like anytime I even think about wanting to honor myself, like even today, this is my fourth day in a row of playing guitar and learning guitar. It's amazing how difficult it was to do it because there's that shame, there's that disgust of like, you can't do what you want to fucking do. And so, what is this fear of responsibility? It's like, I don't want this power. Like that quote from Spider-Man comes up where he's like, Uncle Ben, he says, with great power comes great responsibility. And I'm like, I don't fucking want that. I want an easy life, bro. Like that's part of me, right? Like my soul does not want that. My soul wants an exciting, fulfilling life of deep connection to all that is. But then there's the wounded, the shadow part that's like, I don't fucking want that. I want to stay comfortable. I want to spend my days watching videos, eating food, maybe talking to some friends, like feeling really comfortable, familiar sensations in my body, and keeping my zone small. And knowing, and I know that if I continue to embody more responsibility, that sphere is going to grow, right? My comfort level by default is going to expand because the experiences I'm going to attract are going to change. And they have a fuck ton in the last 8 months I've been here. And it's been death upon death upon death. And that's why I've been to the psych hospital since I've been back in July twice. I almost went a couple weeks ago, but I got to the hospital and my wise mind was online enough to be like, you don't want to go to the hospital. So I just got a pill and I went home because this is stuff that the hospital is not going to support me anymore. The hospital is just going to set me back. They're just going to put me on more medication, and it's going to keep me more trapped with the inability to have that sense of responsibility and freedom. But that's what I was getting out of it. I was feeling so unsafe that I went to the hospital because I want some semblance of safety, and it was understandable. And that's what I want to do is find this sweet spot of honoring the part of me that is terrified, that never felt fucking safe to be myself remotely, remotely. And so I've viewed the world as this terrifying place full of judgment and rejection. And yet inside there's this child who just wants to like play and enjoy and experience and express and feel his heart and cry and love and make love. There's so much. So this part that doesn't want responsibility, it's like I don't want a hard life. I don't want to feel hard sensations. I don't want people not to like me. I want to be liked by everyone. I want everyone to like worship me and want to suck my dick. Like that's what I want. That's what that part of me wants. Like thousands of people, like me on stage, just standing there, right? And everyone is just like Kai, just like worshiping me. But I don't want to have to do anything for it. I just want to be able to like stay as I am in bed, not work, get provided for, have food and shelter taken care of, and somehow just exist. But it's impossible to have the experiences that my soul wants to have while continuing to create the experiences that have kept me safe. Hiding, freezing, running, appeasing. Wow, my feet smell really gnarly. I have these hobo shoes that I wear. I like these shoes. I love them, but they're starting to, oh my God. Um, so that part of me is just terrified of responsibility, but it's also getting to the point where like, I would blame society of like, oh, I have complex PTSD and maybe autism, maybe ADHD. And all these things can be true. And I think they are true that I've been recovering from complex PTSD. My body's been in a trauma response for 30 something years. And I can also take responsibility for the healing process. So how do I find this middle ground of like owning my pain and not bypassing it? Because I don't want to just rush through and tell that like part of me that's really afraid, like just man up and take responsibility. But I also don't want to get lost in seeing myself as a victim because I was a victim at one point. I was bullied a fuck ton. I was, even though my parents did the best they could and they love me and we get along really well now, they weren't able to see or hold or help me co-regulate my really intense emotions of like terror and rage and grief. And that did happen. And so, how can I fully move through that so that I can move on? And I've been waiting for this like moment, right? Like, oh, okay, maybe one day I'll just snap out of it and I'll be done. I'll be on the other side. But I'm learning it's like it's a process. It's a day to day, moment to moment process. It's really fucking uncomfortable at times, and it's also extremely blissful at times to know that like no one else is responsible for my life. And also, what I've noticed is I've been a lot more open to receiving support because part of me has said if I receive support, that means I'm codependent. And I'm learning to be independent. And I've been codependent my whole life and afraid to really like do my own thing, right? Really, really follow my heart. Not even follow my heart, but just like moment to moment create and unravel the life inside of me. But I'm learning that just because I get to now claim radical responsibility doesn't mean aloneness. I don't need to be alone. Being seen in my shit while actively continuing to lean into it and work through it is the medicine. And that can be a fine line too, because I know Facebook has been a healing platform for me. And there's also times where it's kind of perpetuated a victim mentality, energized it of like, I'm hopeless, I'm helpless. So there's an amazing line from this song I heard. The song is called Healing by Fletcher, this fucking amazing artist. And she says, just because I feel hope, I, I'm feeling broken doesn't mean I'm broken. Because I feel hopeless doesn't mean I am hopeless. And that's a huge a lesson too. Because like fucking this morning, man, I'm like, I got 60 bucks in my bank account. Uh, like I just went into this really dark space of like, I got 60 bucks in my bank account. I fucking live with my parents. Like, yes, there's been so much magic, but yes, it still feels like I'm so trapped by fear and addictive patterns and like so afraid to really slow down and be with myself. And I was getting to these like really dark places of like hopelessness, right? And I wanted to, I wanted to uh give up. Like when I woke up, I wanted to just open my laptop and pull up xvideos.com, a porn website for those of you who are not privy, and jack off and give myself a few minutes of uh, pleasure, of escape. But I didn't. I sent a message to a friend and a mentor. I got up and did some fucking qigong. Like I'm having these anchoring habits is gonna help me move through this. Like right now, I'm committed to two main habits. One is qigong twice a day. There's two videos that I'm gonna do. Like they're pulled up on my computer, easy. I don't have to search them out. It's really fucking easy. It takes one opening for me to start the video, and then I'm going. And then one at night. So one in the morning, one at night, and then two 15-minute guitar sessions a day. Like I want to focus on grounding, discipline, stability with these qigong practices, uh, and then creative expression with guitar, like something that I can build on, because I love dance. I want to sing eventually. I think that's why I'm going through this like throat clearing. I want to speak and I want to speak on stage. I want to do something on stage and or for community. And one of the things that really calls to me is being able to learn guitar and like after an ecstatic dance or just with friends, like being able to play a bunch of songs and like get people singing together like that like those simple things like that sounds fucking amazing. like like connecting with others through music and just being in a song circle and uh, vibing, living. And so those are my disciplines right now. I'm committing like indefinitely qigong qigong guitar, and I'll be able to see improvements. Like guitar, obviously, I'm going to build. Each practice is going to build on each other, and I've already been noticing like I know 8 chords now, and it's fucking cool. Like I've been playing for 4 days, and if it just sounds good, it feels good. There's part of me that's like getting the dopamine, like the true, like the purest source of dopamine, not like a not dopamine from Facebook, but dopamine from like learning a new skill and like feeling that and being like, I can fucking do this. Um, so that's how I'm gonna heal the inner child, because my inner child has had this story of like he's a failure, he's never gonna amount to anything, everything's too hard, it's not worth it. And so my whole life, when I would try something new, I would just give up immediately, or I would cancel. Like I would feel called to go to an event, right? Um, like I don't know, any type of event, an improv event or a dancing event or a drum circle. And all my 20s, and until really recently, and still happens. I would feel called to go to it, and then at the last minute, I would go back to the things that kept me safe. Hey, I'm not feeling well, or it doesn't feel aligned. That's an easy spiritual um, escape hatch, get out of jail free card. Like, oh, it's not resonating with me, so I'm not gonna go. And no one questions you on that. And so one of the things I'm grateful for too is I have a mentor slash friend who really sees me. Well, I have several, um, but it's beautiful to be loved in a way where like someone can see your bullshit and they're not gonna shame you for it, but they just know that you can do these things. And I've never had that. Like every every coach I had, I played sports growing up. I played baseball and soccer. Um, Soccer was my favorite. I played 1 year of high school and then I stopped because I hated running. I hated it. And I think the first tryout for sophomore year soccer was like go run 5 miles, and I was like, I'm the fuck this. Um, but every coach I had was so toxically hyper masculine that it just made me shrivel up even more. I can't remember one instance of a coach like treating me with respect. And I'm sure that's not the case, but what sticks out, of course, what's in my memory is these men berating me. Like I remember I would strike out in practice sometimes. I would strike out, right? I'd be trying so hard, I'd strike out and just get like berated for it. And even my freshman year high school soccer coach was just a fucking dick. Like he was just a dick. Like thinking that shame and screaming at someone is going to make them better. Yes, you can change people with shame, but you're not connecting them more to who they are. You're not instilling long-term growth in someone when you shame them. I would guess the military is this way. Like you're fucking forcing people through hyper masculine effort to be someone, and they will change and they will become that person, but they're losing parts of themselves. Whereas when I envision what I would want an ideal mentor to be, it's someone who brings you back to yourself. They're not asking you to change yourself to be something you're not, or to disregard parts of yourself. They're not shaming you. They're actually helping you shed who you are not. I love these recordings because I had no idea where this was going to go, but it's so healing to just express what's inside of me. So fucking healing. So fucking healing. Like if I could make a living just doing this, maybe I can, like just recording these as podcast episodes or on YouTube, like just expressing what's alive for me. I would love that because it's so healing. Like there's nothing to hide, man. Like here I am, a 34-year-old man. I know I'm brilliant. I know how much I fucking love so deeply. Like when I think of especially kids, like my nephew, like he was at Easter, he got hit by my other nephew and he was crying. And it was like one of the most beautiful moments of my life to go over to him and not to tell him it's gonna be okay, but just to be there, like just to put my hand on his back. And then he walked away. He was feeling shame. I think that happens a lot, especially with guys. Like he had, like I don't want to be seen in my pain. And so he went to sit on this like tire swing thing. And I like, went over there and I was like, hey, are you comfortable if I sit next to you? And he was like, yeah. And I just sat there with him. And I was like overtaken with emotion at well, what was happening right then, the co-regulation, like just grateful that I could be there for him and his pain. And then just thinking about how me and generations in my lineage never had that. Like my whole life, when I would go through something painful, no one was there for me. Like I was struggling so hard in my teen years, and most of the time I would just come home and go into my room and listen to music, but I was always alone. And I never had anyone. And I just want to honor that. Like we need people to witness us in our pain. And if we don't have that, then we're just gonna feel shame and isolation when we feel emotions. That's what I've felt. Like especially going through this journey of reclaiming myself and like going into the depths of my wounds. There's been so much loneliness there and emptiness. When I look inside, there's just this emptiness, like no one's home because no one helped me as a child, like build that inner sanctum for myself. And that's I'm not feeling it now, but that's what has led me to the edges of suicide is like no like feeling, not knowing, feeling as if I cannot hold space for myself. And what a heartbreaking experience that is to be like, there's no one home. When I look inside, when I'm in pain, there's no one home. And all I know how to do is reach for addictions. All I know how to do is people please. All I know how to do is avoid because I'm trying to stay alive. I don't know how to be there for the big feelings. And so I'm learning how to move the big feelings. And a lot of it is with creativity. Like right now, this is creativity. I'm expressing. Anytime anything comes out, it's creation. I was talking with a friend of mine. Um, I might have shared this on my last episode as well, but like the only way through the dark night of the soul is by becoming, he said this and it felt so true, is like by becoming an artist or becoming a therapist. And to me, they're very much intertwined. But I'm realizing that me learning my art, which is expressing myself in whatever form, whether it's writing, whether it's speaking, whether it's dancing, is saving my life. Because what it does is it's like expression. It comes from the a Latin word explorare, which means to press out. And so when I allow myself to express, I'm pressing out what's inside of me, all the unprocessed and undigested pain, the grief, feelings of like, the feelings of that I'm fundamentally flawed, the feelings of like when I go on Facebook or I look around and I see all these people living their best lives, even though I don't know what is going on in their heads, but I see all these people traveling the world and having businesses. And then there's this feeling of like, but look where you are, bro. You have $60. You still have all these parts of you that are terrified and just this shame that would come up. But what this does is it gives me a fucking outlet to just be me for fuck's sake. And even though I'm not in a therapy session, I know that this is going to be witnessed by whomever watches it. Um, and that feels good. It feels good to know that like there will be people that maybe will judge me, but there will be people that also benefit from it. And that's one thing that keeps me going. As much as it might be intertwined with like needing validation, I need to know that my life matters because what comes up a lot is this feeling of like, I don't want to take responsibility because I don't know what to be responsible for. Like a lot of people know from age 5, I want to be a fucking astronaut. I want to be a fucking this. I want to be a fucking that. And for me, there's all these threads. There's like, I want to be a speaker. I want to experience life. I want to play guitar. I want to perform and express my heart for other people. But there's not this like explicit role, right? And so I'll go into those spaces sometimes of like, why am I fucking here? And then that's when the whispers of the shadow of like checking out becomes so seductive, especially because there can be payoffs. Like, I don't know, I have like 10 more benzodiazepines left. My plan is to wean off of them for good because they numb me, but they also make me feel spacey. But there's still that timeline where I could go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and suffer and suffer and suffer and be on meds and numb out and suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer. But that doesn't, I've said this before, it doesn't feel good anymore. Like not taking responsibility just feels shitty. Like I can feel it somatically that it doesn't feel good because I can tell my energy wants to do, like it wants to live, it wants to take responsibility. And then also just like psychologically, I know when I'm checking out, and that doesn't feel good. And then it's also the part that it's like I'm not honoring this. Like my heart is fucking huge. Like I made a post about letters the other day, and that was so healing to write people love letters. Um, it's one of my favorite things in the world is to see someone and to reflect back to them what I see. I love it. What's arising in this moment is a lot of fear, uncertainty, deep compassion for myself. Just this like being me is fucking hard, man. And I want to like go into that Enneagram type 4 story of like, does anyone know how hard it is to be me? Like, don't fucking judge me, motherfucker. Like, I want to, people that comment on my shit and they're like, I had a friend recently, he just commented something that triggered the fuck out of me. And I'm grateful for it now. But at the time, I got so fucking triggered. He's like, why are you making it so hard for yourself? Like, why are you trying so hard? And I wanted to be like, fuck you with that spiritual bypass bullshit. You don't fucking know what it's like to be in my fucking body. Just let go. Like it's a fucking easy thing to do. Oh, it's simple. Just let go. And yes, teachers talk about it. And yes, I get it on an intellectual level that you can just let go and trust. But if you have this accumulated survival stress in your body, letting go feels like ripping out an arrow that's been shot into it. So letting go is like pulling it out and it has like these barbs in it. And so you're pulling the barbs out and it's like, oh yeah, just let go. Just like ha, just fucking feel the most pain you've ever felt in your life. Just do it. Why are you trying so hard? Just fucking do it, pussy. And that's how I see a lot of the spiritual bypassing out there. It's like, just fucking do it, bro. Just fucking let go. Let go of what does not serve you. Oh God, let it go. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. And that anger feels good because I deserve to be upset. Like it's okay to be fucking angry about my life circumstances. Like, did I choose this path? Apparently I did. But there's also part of me that's like, I don't fucking want this path, man. Just put me back into the goddamn matrix. Let me be happy working a 9 to 5, getting married, having 2.5 children or whatever the fucking average is, 1.75 kids. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. So that's the part that doesn't want to take responsibility. That's the part that just wants to fucking lay in bed and be like, fuck this shit, fuck this game, fuck you. I'm gonna seek as much pleasure as I can in this moment. Fuck you. Although ironically, pleasure is a big part of my life, but like uh ethical hedonism is what a new friend called it. That's a huge part of actually what I want, but I've been afraid and there's been so much shame around like, oh yeah, I want to have a lot of sex. I want to experience a lot of sensual pleasure. And so there's this shame around that. So much shame around the fact that I want to be like really expressive and creative and sexual and all these things. And I'm so afraid of people not liking me for it or thinking I'm fucking weird or too intense or too gross. And then honoring the part of me that deeply feels that because I must have experienced some deep trauma, whether this life or generationally. When I did express myself, my fullness, right? I like, you know, I don't know whether it's the way I dance or touch myself or, even just the things I talk about. Like last time I talked about the porn I used to watch, taboo porn. There's still this part of me that wants to be liked so fucking badly because I have felt this void inside of me of like, I don't feel safe on my own. And it's a very scary place to be in when you don't feel safe in your own energy. It's probably the scariest. And I would argue that that's why most of us are addicted. What's that quote? All of mankind's problems stem from a man's inability to sit alone with himself in a room because we're afraid to be with our own experience. So we're always trying to change our experience. And the paradox is there's nowhere to fucking go. I'm sitting here in this house. This is life. But I also have the awareness to know that I'm in the 3D realm where linear time exists, and I get to choose what unfolds with my choices, with my decisions, by what I focus on. And it's a big transformation. It's going from deeply wounded child who doesn't want to take responsibility for fucking anything to a man who claims ownership over his life and is willing to go through the discomfort of that. Because either way, there's going to be discomfort in life. That's what I'm realizing. I can't avoid it anymore. For so long, I was able to avoid discomfort for 30 plus years through pornography and stimulation. But that doesn't feel good anymore. So it's like, do I want the discomfort of resisting my heart and where my energy wants to go and taking responsibility, or do I want the discomfort of leaning into it? Because either way, there's discomfort. Life is fucking crazy. All right, I'm gonna go make some food. I'll probably post this on both channels.